standing on $5 million of real money.
Nobody gives a care about the fate of labor as long as they can get their instant gratification.
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. The COVID lockdown era was a very weird time in human history. Personally, from the beginning of 2020 to the end of 2021, I felt like I was in a giant time loop.
That's my life, over and over and over and over.
That entire time period is a dead zone for everyone, where if you want to do anything at all, you have to fight tooth and nail for it. Trust me, my wedding happened in the middle of it, and we thought that we would have to cancel multiple different times.
What do you mean? I have $100.
Not anymore, you don't. Poof.
But two things I remember throughout that time period, besides the struggle that was getting my wedding to actually happen, was the entertainment that started and ended the pandemic. Or in the case of the tail end of it, kind of just the point where we stopped caring at all.
Whoa! That's interesting, but I sure don't care.
And those two things are Tiger King from March of 2020 and Squid Game from September of 2021. Both giant popular hits that had very different fates because of the time that they came out in.
Yeah, that's one fine looking barbecue pit. Why doesn't mine look like that?
Squid Game actually has a very simple premise. People with uber amounts of debt compete in a life or death series of games for the entertainment of mass billionaires. At first, none of the contestants know that it is a life or death series of games, though. They think that they're just in some sort of weird competition. So they're shell-shocked when they find out that if they lose, they die.
Explosion.
But the twist is that they're not stuck in the life or death games until the very end. In fact, after the first game of red light, green light, they are allowed to have a vote where the majority decides whether everyone stays or everyone goes. And the main character is actually the deciding vote, which makes it so that everyone gets to go home.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
But after a few days, almost every single one of them make the decision to go back when given the choice because their situations demand it. And a lot of people thought this was a criticism of the system, of capitalism, but I very much disagree, because 90% of the characters that were in the Squid Games were in them because of the terrible decisions they've made throughout their lives.
By the gods, what have I become?
From my position, it seemed more like a criticism of gambling addiction, of billionaires and the uber rich, and of human nature's tendency for people to just run over each other for their own selfish interests. Along with at least a minor criticism of the South Korean immigration system, which I have heard is not that great.
Excuse me? Mr. Kettle, Mr. Pot called. He says you're black!
What? It's a turn of phrase. It has nothing to do with race.
All the while, let's point out how absolutely bored everyone is and how they just want to watch other people struggle for their entertainment. How many seasons of Survivor, Naked and Afraid, and Big Brother are there? Yeah, a lot, and people keep watching.
Are you two still living?
So I never really viewed it as a criticism of the system, but of the people supporting the system who keep it going despite everything wrong with it just because they want to be entertained. If something doesn't get attention, if something doesn't make money, it's going to be memory hold so quickly that you're going to think that you imagined it all.
When you poop in your dreams, you poop for real.
Imagine if Squid Game didn't gain massive amounts of attention and was just erased like various different other Netflix products. Hey, do you remember Squid Game? Squid Game, what's that? Is it a restaurant or something? I don't remember going there. No man, it was a show on Netflix. You haven't watched it? It was super good. Oh well, it says right here that they already canceled it and there was a cliffhanger, so I really don't think that I'm gonna check it out, I'm gonna be honest.
It's become a category in my brain that I call, of course, but maybe.
But it was popular, and you know what that means. The corpos just won't ever let it die. Are you actually surprised that there was a second season after all that popularity and after a cliffhanger that was definitely forced into it against the original intent of the creator? I don't care who you are, I do not believe that the person that made this wanted a second season. They probably just wanted a one and done story.
It's over. Go home.
But you know what? Counter argument, money. So you know what? I get it. And you know what? I almost can't blame them for making a second season. I would too. But you know what? I can blame them for completely missing the point and making spin-offs and video games.
We can squeeze 20 years of entertainment out of this one videotape.
And hey, we can criticize Netflix and the corpos as much as we want for completely missing the point of Squid Games. But hey, I guess a lot of people did too, because with the Squid Game real life challenge, a lot of people watched. And I'm guessing people played the mobile game because it's still around, so what you gonna do?
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Oh, and it's not just Netflix. Don't forget that Beast Games is a thing over on Amazon. The funny thing is that last year I came out with a video where I praised Mr. Beast, where I thought that he was a good guy, that he deserved his money, and that he was using it the right way. And then all of the controversies hit 2 days afterward, and I was like, well, I gotta reevaluate my opinion.
I made a mistake! I made a mistake.
That taught me a lesson. Batman and Iron Man aren't real. Everyone that gains money and power is probably going to abuse it, so I just need to be ready for it. Because boy, my opinion has done a complete 180 on this guy from last year, especially considering everything that I've heard about Beast Games.
This is worthless.
It's less than worthless, my boy.
Just look at this lawsuit. Look at it in its terrible glory. Oh, the SA allegations alone. But not only that, people say that they won prizes and money and never received them, which is even worse than in the Squid Games show. Because guess what? The winner did in fact get the money in the show, meaning you're worse than the cartoonishly evil people in Squid Games.
Impressive. Very nice.
But even with the lawsuits, and even with the fact that the critics are just tearing the show apart, it is going to get another season because a bunch of people are watching it. Even me to some small extent. I didn't give it a view on Amazon itself, but I did have to look up clips in order to make a video on this.
Hans, are we the baddies?
I could argue that I'm never going to watch anything else from it, but I'm still part of the problem, just like everyone else that is watching this nonsense. I'm not saying that I'm not part of the problem at all. I didn't watch the real life Squid Games or play the mobile game, but I did watch season 2, so I am supporting it still.
This was on me. This is on me. Kane, my bad.
So this is me saying don't let critics get a free pass. They are a part of the problem too. They are perpetuating this system. What? You mean that my article complaining about how terrible Beast Games is actually put more attention on it and now it's getting renewed for a second season, meaning I get to make more articles about it? Who would have thought?
This is quite a shock. On the other hand, it's not surprising in the least.
It is literally a system to perpetuate slop unto the public. And because it's actually working, I can promise you that there is going to be more blank game shows in the future.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Because people are still watching, people are still paying attention, meaning they're going to continue for a very, very long time until people lose interest. I promise you that apathy is the single best way to kill something that you don't like. Whether you like it or you hate it, if you're paying attention to it, you're supporting it.
Hi, you guys. If you ignore it, it will go away.
You want a perfect example of this? Just look at the other side of this tale of two cities with Tiger King. Just as Squid Game is the phenomenon which ended the COVID era, Tiger King is the phenomenon which started it all, which is why it doesn't have the same success years later.
Spare change. Spare change, ma'am.
Now the shows couldn't be any more different. Tiger King is a real-life documentary, while Squid Game is a biting, dark commentary on real life. Now, you might be surprised to find out there is in fact a season 2 to Tiger King, but 1, no one really watched it, and 2, it wasn't really all that good, especially compared to the first season, because that first season was a wild ride that you never saw coming and you never knew was going to happen next. But considering that they were trying to document what was happening in real life during the COVID era, it was absolutely doomed to fail because nothing was going to happen because we were stuck in a time loop. There was no real way to capitalize on it, so it just slowly died away until it's just a fond memory in all of our minds. Who doesn't look back at that show and quote some of the things that Joe Exotic said?
Did you ever notice that? How many really stupid people you run into during the day?
But you know that every single person involved in that show is so bitter about the fact that COVID ruined their chances to just break out into something bigger. If the show just came out 2 years later, in the year of our Lord 2022, it would have been the biggest thing ever. We would have been sick of it by now in the year of our Lord 2025. There'd be Joe Exotic plushies all over the place. There would be constant interviews. There would be spin-offs. There would be reality shows. It would just be insufferable.
What the hell is even that?
You could argue that I'm reaching a bit, but am I really? Would Netflix really just let it go? Would all of the different people involved who are terrible human beings just let their surge of popularity drop? Nope. Joe Exotic would be all over the place. The same thing with Carol Baskin, and they would be feuding for all time in order to bring in that money. But actually, behind the scenes, they already made up in order to make a bunch of money because that's who they are. It's basically pro wrestling, but in real life.
Stop it. Get some help.
I'm not saying that it's a good thing. I'm saying it's what would happen. And the message that big cats should not be owned by anyone and should be just left out into the wild would be completely missed, because at that point, big cats would be all over the place. And you know what? I would feel bad for the big cats because they'd be shoveled all over the place with everyone fawning over them while they're in tiny little cages and suffering all the time. I have my own problems with these Squid Game spin-offs because they're exploiting human suffering and people in terrible situations. But just like in the show, most of these people ended up in bad situations because of their own decisions. It doesn't mean that they should be exploited, of course. It just means that I like animals more than people. I don't know what to tell you.
I've only had Arlo for a day and a half. But if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
But we can all take heart in knowing that the point was missed in both of the series, because big cats are still being abused and Squid Game is still happening in real life. I mean, they're not dying in the games, but still they're being exploited based off of the lawsuits. So the corpos didn't learn any lessons, the people involved in the shows didn't learn any lessons, and the people watching the shows didn't learn any lessons. And it's all going to continue forever. Yay, we don't live in a dystopia at all.
Well, this sucks.
But what do you think? Would Tiger King have continued forever with various different spin-offs if it happened after COVID? Are you sick of all the Squid Game stuff? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, if you disagree with everything that I have to say, that is perfectly fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
Stop! He's already dead.
Thank you all so much for watching.
You're still here?
Good night, everybody. Thank you. You bye. Boom.
Do not despair.